Stop calling it red tide. This is not natural. This is corporate greed at its finest, and it is time to wake up. Stop calling it red tide.
New at 6, President Donald Trump signed a wide-ranging bipartisan bill today that will help mitigate Florida's toxic algae problem. $1.3 billion will go toward an Everglades agricultural area reservoir, which is designed to take water from Lake Okeechobee and filter out toxins that contribute to the algae blooms.
Well, guys, we did it. We actually did it. The power of using social media for good. All of you, all the people who pushed the petition, shared stories about this crisis, made as many people aware of this as possible. This is all thanks to you guys. Cannot begin to possibly thank you guys enough for helping me along this journey. Florida is not only my home and many of your guys' homes, but we can all relate to this on a personal level because we all live on the same planet. We only get one, and if we keep letting stuff like this happen, I am actually very worried for the future of this planet. My generation was the last generation of kids to grow up without social media and without the internet, and I am so glad that I grew up when I did. Society has changed more in the last 100 years than it has, it seems, in the history of the human race. And I intend to use all this technology for good. My only point in saying all this is the time to push for a better future is right now. Of course, my main content will still be humor, pranks, just us having fun, but we promised ourselves before we had any substantial following at all that we would always use our voice for good, be the good in the world, and above all, just live life to the fullest and have as much fun as possible. Thanks to making YouTube videos and making videos for the internet, that dream has come true for us, and it is all thanks to you guys. Now to really get into it. I think all the videos we made, all the protesting, and with all of your guys' help, we opened a lot of people's eyes. And finally, a statement has been released from the White House stating that President Trump is to sign a bill that will authorize a $1.3 billion Everglades agricultural reservoir, which is designed to take water from Lake Okeechobee and filter out the toxins that contribute to the algae blooms. New
at 6, President Donald Trump signed a wide-ranging bipartisan bill today. The America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018 authorizes more than $6 billion in spending over 10 years. $1.3 billion will go toward an Everglades agricultural area reservoir, which is designed to take water from Lake Okeechobee and filter out toxins that contribute to the algae blooms.
This is great news because, like I said, if the discharges keep happening and this kept getting worse and worse, Florida would literally turn into an uninhabitable toxic wasteland for the most part, which sucks because I love Florida so much. It's one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been in my life, and I've traveled all over the world. The people here and the sense of community here is so strong. Florida is paradise and has been my home since I was born. And I've really considered moving away in the last few months. While this new bill is great news, we have to keep fighting for this. We need to regulate these corporations that are contributing to the pollution here in Florida, the phosphate farms that have been poisoning the aquifer, the cattle ranchers that are leading to more toxic water being drained, of course, big sugar companies, all their fertilizers and toxic water being drained into the lake as well. Unfortunately, the worst is not behind us. It's definitely going to get worse again before it gets better, because they said this project could take 10 years to complete. But this is a first good step. I want to be optimistic about the reservoir, but sadly, I have to consider the fact that if it doesn't work, it could be the end of Florida life as we know it. So while this reservoir is being built, I think we still really need to push hard to create regulations for all these big corporations that are contributing to the toxic algae blooms and that are poisoning Lake Okeechobee. I've been getting really frustrated about this whole algae bloom, toxic water problem in Florida, mainly because 95% of the media was calling it red tide up until recently, when it's not red tide. What's happening in Florida is not a natural occurrence. While red tide does naturally occur, this is something completely different and far worse. I would just like to make one point really quick. If this is red tide, why are the areas that are experiencing the worst fish kills and the most dead marine life the areas that are closest to where the water is being discharged from Lake Okeechobee? The river mouths that the lake water is being drained from, those areas are experiencing the most fish kills and the most dead wildlife. If that's not proof that this is a direct result of the water being dumped out of Lake Okeechobee, I don't know what is. Stop calling it red tide. This is not natural. This is corporate greed at its finest, and it is time to wake up from that. Stop calling it red tide. We also need to consider the fact that every single beach in Florida has seen fish kills. But when you look at the red tide charts, it shows that red tide does not spread up to places like Jacksonville that are currently seeing fish kills. The ocean's current and wind direction over the last few days wouldn't bring dead fish from the areas on the map that claim red tide, which is more proof that it is not red tide. It's something else. Now, I'm currently out in LA filming and vlogging. We have some insane stuff coming your way. Probably one of the craziest pranks I've ever filmed in my life, so look forward to that. I just wanted to make this video because I think we made a huge difference. You know, I've been pushing so hard to get as many eyes as possible on this topic. When I first started making these videos, not a single news station would talk about the algae bloom. They all called it red tide. Nothing was being done. There was no talk about it pretty much whatsoever. They were still claiming it like state of emergency because of red tide. And now I'm seeing tons of news stations coming out talking about the toxic algae blooms and how something needs to be done. And to me, when the news actually starts talking about it, that says that they're actually going to probably do something to fix it, because once it hits the mainstream media, then it becomes a conversation with the Florida government, with the United States government, and now finally a bill is being signed to do something about it. Like I said, you know, this is a victory. I'm very happy that this is actually happening, that this is something that they're taking action for. But like I said, it's going to get worse. And we need to keep pushing to regulate these corporations that are poisoning the lake and killing all the wildlife. They really need to be held responsible. When BP spilled oil in the Gulf of Mexico, they were held responsible. I don't see how these corporations aren't held responsible for all the wildlife that they're killing. People have died as well as a direct result of the toxic algae blooms. So I don't know what else I can say. Let's keep fighting, guys. I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep you guys up to date. If there's anything that we can do to contribute to a better future, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to make videos about it. That will never change. Please help this video go viral. Drop a big thumbs up. It would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, probably one of the greatest pranks that I've ever filmed will be uploaded in a couple of days. See you guys at TwitchCon.
Peace.